The summons reached me while I was in the middle of arguing with a malfunctioning translation drone that insisted my name was Glorious Eggplant. I was still trying to convince it that I was, in fact, a human ambassador in training and not a vegetable deity when the palace guards arrived. Three towering figures in shimmering armor that looked like it had been woven out of liquid galaxies. They didn't speak. They didn't blink. One simply held out a crystalline tablet displaying a message that made every molecule in my body try to file for early retirement. The Empress requests your presence in her private chambers. I had heard stories about her, of course, everyone had. The Empress was the kind of ruler whose authority could make entire star systems rearrange their borders out of sheer respect, or fear, or both. She was said to be impossibly beautiful, impossibly powerful, and impossibly good at detecting lies. Which was unfortunate, because most of my diplomatic career up to that point had relied on smiling confidently while praying no one noticed I didn't know what I was doing. The guards escorted me through hallways so vast it felt like I was walking through the inside of a nebula. Staircases spiraled into upper levels with no apparent physics-based justification. The palace air hummed with the energy of quantum stabilizers, the floor rippling faintly with every step like we were walking across the skin of a living star. My nerves would have shredded me completely if one of the guards hadn't sneezed inside his helmet, producing a metallic honk loud enough to echo across the corridor. He muttered something in his language, probably an apology, though it sounded suspiciously like "May the moon swallow my shame." When we reached the final door, I tried to smooth my hair, which promptly rebelled and stuck straight up like it wanted to greet the Empress before I did. The guard stepped aside, and the door slid open without a sound, revealing a chamber so massive it might have had its own weather system. Everything glowed in shifting hues of silver and violet, reflecting off countless suspended mirrors that displayed not my image, but starfields from distant regions of her empire. And then she stepped forward. She looked almost human, almost. Her ears were long and elegant, arching gracefully from the sides of her head like sculpted obsidian crescents. They twitched faintly as she studied me, a movement so subtle and strangely expressive that I nearly forgot how to speak. Her eyes carried galaxies in them, not metaphorically but literally. Refracted starlight glimmered inside her irises, and her presence, gravity seemed to rearrange itself in her favor. For several agonizing seconds, she simply regarded me, as if calculating whether I should be vaporized or offered tea. Her silence stretched so long that I nearly bowed just to break it, except I remembered the last time I attempted a culturally respectful bow on this planet. I had accidentally headbutted a ceremonial gong and caused a minor diplomatic incident. So instead I gave a small, awkward wave. "Hi," I said, "Your Majesty." Her long ears flicked upward in what I assumed was surprise. Then, unexpectedly, her lips curved. "Your manner of greeting is unconventional," she said, her voice smooth and resonant like someone had woven velvet into sound. "But refreshing. Most who enter my chambers tremble." "Oh, I'm trembling," I assured her. My legs felt like they were reenacting a magnitude 8 quake. "I've just learned to hide it in the shoulders. Diplomatic training." Another flick of her ears, amusement maybe. I was starting to catch on. "You were summoned," she said, stepping closer until the starlight from her eyes cast tiny glimmers on my shirt. "Because there is a matter that requires a human perspective. A very particular one." "Right," I said, nodding wisely. "Of course." Then, because my brain hated me, "You're sure you didn't mean to summon a competent human?" Her laughter was soft but startlingly warm. "Competence is not always the most valuable trait," she said. "Honesty, unpredictability, these are sometimes more precious." "Well," I said, "I can guarantee unpredictability. Honesty too, though mostly on accident." She stepped even closer, close enough that I could see faint constellations shift in her pupils. The air around her smelled faintly of something sweet, like starfruit warmed by solar winds. Her voice softened, though it seemed to fill every inch of the chamber. There are tensions rising in my empire, she said. Conflicts that may ignite if handled improperly. I require someone who stands outside the web of my politics, someone unbound by expectation, someone who cannot be manipulated. I nodded, trying to look noble. You mean someone who's too clueless to be bribed or coerced? Her ears twitched. Precisely. My self-esteem took the hit, but at least it was delivered elegantly. Then she leaned in, close enough that her breath brushed my ear, sending a shiver straight through my skeleton. Her whisper was soft enough that the galaxy-filled room seemed to hold its breath. I chose you, she murmured, because you are unlike anyone in this palace, and because what comes next requires a human who can be trusted, even if he does not yet trust himself. I swallowed, my heartbeat thundering through my chest so loudly I was surprised it didn't activate any seismic alarms. And what comes next? Her eyes glowed faintly. Her ears lowered in a way that looked almost vulnerable. That, she said quietly, you will discover tonight. The Empress led me deeper into her chambers, and I quickly discovered that chambers was an understatement bordering on criminal. The place was practically its own ecosystem. We passed through a hall lined with floating crystalline orbs that pulsed with soft blue light. Each one contained a miniature storm swirling inside it, complete with tiny lightning streaks. I stared too long at one and it flashed brightly enough to singe a few hairs off my arm. She glanced back with a faint smile. They're harmless, she said, unless they are in a mood. Good to know, I muttered, subtly patting my arm to make sure it was still attached. We entered a lounge-like area where gravity seemed to work part-time. Furniture drifted lazily a few centimeters above the ground, and a table rotated in slow circles as if it were trying to show off its best angles. I attempted to sit in one of the hovering chairs, only for it to glide sideways, making me land with an undignified thump. The Empress watched, her long ears twitching with what I suspected was the royal equivalent of stifled laughter. Your furniture is slippery, I said, climbing to my feet. It is designed to adapt to one's emotional state, she explained. Perhaps you are nervous. Me nervous? No. I always fall horizontally before important conversations. A soft hum filled the room as a circular window opened to reveal the planet's night sky. Except it wasn't a real window. I realized it was a projection from an orbital satellite. Stars shimmered in dancing patterns as if the cosmos itself were trying to soothe my anxiety. It helped. A little. The Empress approached a long, curving console that wrapped around part of the chamber. Symbols glowed under her fingertips as she activated what looked like a holographic map of her entire empire. Dozens of star systems lit up, interconnected in shimmering strands that reminded me of a celestial spider web. Some strands glowed bright gold, but others flickered with ominous red pulses. She gestured for me to stand beside her. I obeyed, trying to look like someone who understood anything about interstellar geopolitics. Spoiler, I did not. I summoned you, she began, because these tensions have reached a precarious point. My advisors offer strategies based on old alliances and ancient grudges, but I require a perspective not shaped by centuries of conflict. Well, I said, I'm definitely not shaped by centuries of anything, unless procrastination counts. Her ears flicked upward again, a soft pulse of amusement. Your lack of entanglement is refreshing. And your humor, she paused, considering, it is unexpectedly disarming. I get that a lot, I said, usually from people trying not to fire me. She turned back to the map, her expression becoming distant. The houses of Vale and Aranth are on the brink of open war. A minor negotiation, one that should have been a simple formality, has become a battlefield of pride and suspicion. My presence only worsens it. They think I'm manipulating every word. And you want me to. I gestured vaguely, hoping she wouldn't say mediate, because the last time I tried mediating an argument, it was between two vending machines, and I'd somehow made both of them angry. She rotated the hologram until a single star system hovered before us like a glowing ember. "There is a summit tomorrow, a crucial negotiation. You will attend in my stead." My throat made a sound that could best be described as a squeaky malfunction. Me, represent the Empress, at a summit involving angry alien noble houses with war fleets. Correct. Is this because I said I'm unpredictable? Because that was not me volunteering. She stepped closer, her expression softening. "I do not ask this lightly. You are an outsider, neither ally nor enemy to either house. That neutrality may be enough to soothe their pride. Your perspective is unclouded. Your lack of pretense disarms them. It also confuses them," I said, "which is basically my superpower." Her ears dipped slightly, a gesture I was beginning to recognize as sincerity. "I trust you, more than those who have stood at my side for decades." It was a strangely intimate admission, one that settled into the air between us with unexpected weight. I swallowed hard, trying not to show how her words affected me. "So, you're saying you trust me because I don't know what I'm doing?" "I trust you because you are genuine," she said, "and because you have nothing to gain from deceiving me." "Well," I said weakly, "I'd like to gain my life ideally." "That," she said calmly, "is a reasonable desire." Before I could respond, a sudden vibration trembled through the chamber. A panel on the wall flickered to life as one of her advisors appeared, an elderly alien whose long ears were shorter and more rigid than the Empress's, giving him the perpetual look of someone who had just swallowed something sour. "Majesty," he said sharply, "we have detected a disturbance near the Vale border. A patrol ship has been fired upon." Her expression hardened. "Casualties?" "None, Majesty, but the insult is unmistakable." The Empress exhaled slowly, so slowly the lights in the chamber dimmed as if responding to her mood. She closed the projection, then turned to me. "This is precisely why I need you," she murmured. "Pride must not be allowed to spiral into destruction, and they will not listen to me, but they may listen to you." "I mean, I can certainly talk," I said. "Whether they'll listen is a gamble." Her long ears angled toward me, warm and earnest. "Then we will gamble human." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Okay, I'll go. I'll try my best not to start an interstellar incident or accidentally declare war through improper bowing." A faint smile touched her lips. "I will brief you fully, but first." She stepped even closer, so close the shimmering starlight reflected off my skin. "I need you to understand something," she whispered. "Tomorrow you will not merely speak for yourself, you will speak for me." I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught as her long, elegant ears brushed near my cheek in a gesture that felt unexpectedly intimate. And I do not choose lightly who stands in my place. The transport vessel carrying me to the summit looked sleek and diplomatic from the outside, but inside it felt like a meditation chamber, designed by someone who had only read about meditation once and immediately got distracted by space carpentry. Soft lights pulsed in soothing rhythms, the walls emitted quiet harmonic tones, and a console offered me an herbal drink whose ingredients translated roughly to galactic moss residue. I politely declined. The Empress stood with me until the very last moment before embarkation, her long ears tilted in a posture I had come to recognize as a blend of worry and determination. "Remember," she said, "the houses of Vale and Aranth are driven by pride. A single misstep can be interpreted as insult." "Right," I said. "So basically, everything I do is a potential disaster." Her lips curved faintly. "That is why it will work." When the ship lifted off, I saw her watching me through the viewing portal, her eyes bright like twin constellations. I gave a small wave, and her ears flicked in a way that made something warm twist in my chest. It struck me that she wasn't sending me because I was expendable. She was sending me because she truly believed I could help. No pressure at all. The summit hall hovered within a massive orbital platform shaped like a ring encircling a miniature star. The star wasn't real. It was a stabilized fusion core. but it cast dazzling light across the chamber, giving the whole place an ambience of divine importance or a very fancy conference room, depending on how sleep-deprived you were. Representatives from both houses stood at opposite ends of a long table that looked heavy enough to have its own gravitational field. The Vale delegation wore sharp, crystalline armor adorned with shimmering sigils. The Aranth representatives wore softer organic armor that seemed to pulse with faint bioluminescence. Both factions glared at each other, with the intensity of two rival school groups forced to share a cafeteria. When I entered, their glares shifted to me. Both sets of leaders seemed equally confused that the Empress had sent me. One of them spoke first, a Vale noble with horns shaped like spiraling prisms. "Where is the Empress?" he demanded. "We were told she would negotiate herself." I swallowed, straightened my posture, and said, "She sent me instead." Silence fell so hard I wondered if the fusion core dimmed out of embarrassment. "Is this a joke?" an Aranth representative asked. "In fairness," I said, "a lot of people ask me that." But then I took a breath, remembering the Empress's trust, the way her ears had dipped as if revealing something fragile. I couldn't joke my way through this. Not entirely. So I stepped forward and projected my voice with more confidence than I felt. "The Empress didn't come because she knows her presence raises suspicion. Yours too. Centuries of tension have shaped every glance, every word. But she sent someone with no stake in your grudges. Someone who doesn't know your rivalries well enough to tip them further." They listened, maybe out of confusion. Maybe because I was too surprising to ignore. "You each believe the other seeks advantage," I continued. "So the Empress chose someone incapable of manipulating you. Trust me, if I could manipulate anyone, my student loan company would have gone out of business years ago." A few delegates exchanged looks. One snorted, "Progress." I gestured to the star map projection hovering above the table. "The Border Patrol incident. Neither of you ordered it. You both know this. A rogue captain fired without authorization." Gasps echoed on both sides. Only then did they realize I knew the classified details the Empress had revealed. "You're on the brink of war because your pride won't let you admit you're afraid of looking weak. But you know what looks weaker?" I pointed emphatically at the hologram. "Letting a single reckless captain drag your houses into a conflict that will scorch half a sector." Silence again, but this time thoughtful. Slowly the representatives began to speak, first to me, then to each other. It was tense at first, every sentence a cautious probe, but the temperature in the room gradually shifted. Pride cracked just enough for reason to slip through. They agreed to a joint investigation, then to a neutral patrol in the disputed region, then, miraculously, to a temporary pact. By the end, they weren't smiling, but they weren't trying to vaporize